So, Alex, it's the second week of December, which means it's time to talk about the holidays.
It's true, Tyler. It is time to talk about the holidays. What's on your mind?
Well, the Nutcracker. We can talk about the still new production from IU Opera and Ballet Theater.
All right, we'll do that. Let's do that at the beginning of the show. It might also be nice to let the people know some of what's on offer in Bloomington this month.
Cool, you want to do that at the end?
Sounds great. End of the show.
And maybe some non-holiday stuff in between, like what's up with public art in Bloomington?
Yeah, it's about time we talk about the city arts team specifically. It's not just about public art. They're doing so much to support artists, really helping the arts thrive here in town.
Love that.
That's all coming up.
Nice work.
After this. Tyler.
Yeah?
Tell me about your history with the Nutcracker.
Well, I've seen it a few times, mostly when I was younger. I don't really remember the plot or anything. It was really just a lot of stuff happening, like a barrage of toys. I remember rats. I remember a lot of dancing, mostly.
Yeah.
What I really remember, though, is that I didn't know the little soldier guys were nutcrackers. Yeah. So I'd seen nutcrackers like at holiday gatherings,
Sure.
And they're like these little metal things that kind of like swivel and go around a walnut and crack it.
There's no like head or a human body associated with it.
No, it's a very utilitarian device.
I'm familiar.
Those are the only nutcrackers I'd actually seen pressed to service. So I think I watched that the first time, wondering where the nutcrackers were.
And where are the nuts?
And where there, I saw no nuts, yeah. And okay, and so when I eventually did figure out that the wooden guys were actually nutcrackers, this was after I could drive a motor vehicle, I'm pretty sure. I just remember thinking, well, that's just so much bother. Why do you need the whole wooden guy when they've got those little metal things? So that's my real memory of the Nutcracker, but also the Sugar Plum Fairy, Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy, yeah. What about you?
So I'll tell you, because of how the show is organized, it can feel kind of long for some of us. The first act is the party scene. There's a lot of narrative where Clara or Marie, depending on the production, receives the Nutcracker as this gift from Drosselmeyer. That all goes on for a while. It's not till the second act that you actually get to see all the dances with the famous music that you probably know.
So you have seen it?
Yes, I have seen it once or twice. I have seen the IU Opera and Ballet Theater production, the old version, a number of times. And now they have this whole new production. This is the third year. They have new sets, new choreography, a new story. They've turned it into this high-speed thriller. There's car chases. It's amazing. I'm kidding about that part. But this new production, it opened 2 years ago. One of the things they tried to do was tie the first half to the second half so it would feel more integrated. I thought they did a good job with that.
Right, and last year our colleagues filmed it, and it'll be broadcast nationally on PBS. One of those producers of the broadcast is Todd Gould, and he talked with the head of the ballet department and the choreographer about this new production.
All right, great. Let's listen to that.
Hi, I'm Todd Gould, and I'm the Senior Producer Director at WTIU, and I'm here joined today by Sarah Roth, who's the head of the ballet department at the Jacobs School of Music. Hi. And Sasha Janes, who is not only a ballet instructor, but also the choreographer for the Nutcracker Ballet. I had a really good opportunity to work with both of you pretty closely over the last year as we've been putting together the Nutcracker. You've put it on now. This will be your third year, right, that you're putting on this particular presentation. But last year we had the great opportunity. You allowed us and our cameras to come in and be behind the scenes, and you were so gracious as hosts to let us sit in on rehearsals, sit in on orchestra rehearsals. We spent a lot of time with you backstage as we were kind of leading up to the premiere of the stage production, and then even afterward we did several pickup days with some of the students. It was really, really an electric performance, and I would encourage you all to go to the live performance, certainly, at the Musical Arts Center in Bloomington. But I wanted to start because it was really such a treat. And Sarah, I'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about this particular version of the Nutcracker. It's just a little different than what we're used to seeing. Like we're used to seeing the Nutcracker as part of our regular holiday tradition, right? But this has a different kind of a feel, a different kind of look to it. Describe some of those differences and how that stands differently than what we're used to seeing in maybe more traditional roles.
Yeah, we really have this opportunity with this particular production and the choreography that Sasha created to have something unique to Bloomington and unique to the Jacobs School of Music. Your traditional Nutcracker, I think the way that it identifies with people as a holiday classic and a holiday tradition is because the primary storyteller or character in the story is a child. It's usually about a dancer named Marie or Clara in some productions. Our dancer is named Marie, and the entire story is about this child's journey. Our production really tells the story from beginning to end, whereas even in the original premiere of the Nutcracker that happened towards the end of the 19th century, there was a big problem audience faced with the production that it was a first act that tells the majority of the story and a second act that's just for dance aficionados. And what Sasha really tried to do was tie first act to second act and make the journey of this child last the entire ballet. And so I think audiences come and they're engaged and they're on this journey with the story, and then they stick with it until the end. Particular changes are the fact that Drosselmeyer, which is historically played by a male-presenting dancer in a male-presenting role, is played by a woman, a female-presenting character that acts as this guide and inspiration for Marie's fantasy journey for the second act.
To make it really seen through Marie's eyes, I thought what would be important is to see all the characters that we see in the second act first appear in the first act. So like some sort of dream where you may have seen someone before and then you go on this dream or a fantasy type trip and you see that person again. So I presented what I wanted to do at the party. The party is traditionally generic parents that come to a Christmas party. By placing the party in an embassy and then having dignitaries from around the world come in traditional dress to honour their culture and come to the party, and then for Marie to travel through this whole story and scene and then re-see these characters dance in the second act. I thought it was a nice way of tying those two parts together. So every character you see in the first act then evolves and is shown again in the second act, even down to the butler. We took some dramatic license and we added a butler who manifests into the Mouse King, who's very severe with the children in the first act. Drosselmeyer's there throughout. And I thought it would be to have a very strong female role model would allow that to be more believable than in Nutcrackers traditionally, the way the Nutcracker is traditionally presented. I love the idea of a young girl having a strong female role model as they go through life or as they're being presented with different situations. And I just thought it would create some sort of believability, or it would be more believable and more magical in that sense to see this strong female character take her on this journey.
Sarah, when Sasha first started coming up with some of these ideas, I mean, was this just something where Sasha just dashes in and says, I've got this brilliant idea, let's just do this thing? or talk a little bit about the creative process, about some of the top creative people and like how you take and sort of develop that idea, that notion. I mean, these are some really great concepts, but then how do you develop that into the full ballet?
Yeah, I mean, only Sasha knows what the full process was behind the scenes.
The mad genius.
In the imagining of this story. He doesn't agree with me when I tell this, but there would be oftentimes, even in our history together of putting on a different Nutcracker, where Sasha would just lean into the doorway of my office and say, oh, well, if I was ever to do a Nutcracker, here's what I would do. There's a couple of story elements that were in original concepts of this production that didn't make it, right? It's like on the drawing room floor, remnants of
That's
a
probably
piece.
where they belong. There.
I don't know. But it's really fun to witness just the creative brainstorm that can happen when you give someone a tale that has been told before and you challenge them to tell it in a new way and in a thoughtful way, which is what we were really trying to do, is how do you tell an Nutcracker that has had problematic elements in the past in a new way where it welcomes everyone. It makes everyone feel joy seeing it, and it really keeps the magic of the production alive while really challenging the dancers choreographically.
Good. You said problematic, and Sasha, I'll touch base with you just a little bit on that. Talk a little bit about just some issues about a cultural appropriation and then how you address those and in turn make that into something that's a celebration of these various cultures from around the world, and especially in the second act.
Yeah, it was, going into it that you're really taking on something that's very sensitive and very important to a great deal of the population. And it did keep me awake at night, but I thought the best way to represent the cultures is by doing traditional dress in the first act. I thought that was a great jumping off point. And then by virtue of the gifts they bring the hosts, it was another little storytelling detail that we could then implement in the second act as well. So every guest brings a gift representing their nation, their country, or their culture, to present to the hosts of the party.
Like the Chinese silks or the
Exactly.
Fabergé egg, right? Those kinds of things. Yes.
Yeah, there were several moments. The Fabergé egg is another one which certainly comes back tenfold as we see the Russian dance.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always just looking for ways to tie it together more than anything, and that's the way we really felt like we overcame a lot of the problematic parts of traditional nutcrackers. And not to say it's perfect, and it most certainly is, and we may look back in 50 years and go, oh, well, we really, maybe that wasn't so great, but that's life, right? So things keep changing.
We just were trying to be as sensitive as possible such that anyone watching from any culture feels proud of what's on stage and not embarrassed, which has happened in our ballet's history.
And done in a very elegant way, and in a very tasteful way, which is extraordinary. And in a way that does, as you say, celebrate those cultures. Something else that Sarah said, and I wanted to talk about the idea of cinematic, and I know you'd worked with Thaddeus Strasburger and also the lighting folks and the projection. There's so much to this production. I mean, the dancing is spectacular, certainly, and the students are amazing, but all the other stuff that's going on stage. I mean, your ability to sort of switch from scene to scene to scene, and like the way you use lighting cues, the way you use video projection, the set design. I mean, there's a lot that went into this, yes, in terms of like how do you transport an audience, from one scene to another on that same stage, yeah? I mean, these are some of the things that you had to kind of work out.
Yeah, I love the way Sarah brought up the fact that I see it in cinematic terms, because I really do feel like if you can, I love the idea of it feeling like a cinematic experience or watching it like it's almost a movie. Mm. There was a mandate, one of the mandates when Jacobs School of Music requested a new Nutcracker was they had just done the Steve Jobs opera a few years prior, and they had all this technology. Mm-hmm. And they said it'd be great if you can utilize some of this technology. And I think at the time they had maybe 4 projectors. We ended up buying more projectors because we didn't have enough. I think I did the mandate. I checked the box of making sure we used all the projectors and the technology.
Yeah, it's outstanding.
And we did have a really great team of people that came together to make it happen. But I will go back to your point earlier about the Wizard of Oz, and one of the things that Thaddeus Strasburger came out when I went to London to meet this set designer, and meeting Thaddeus is a whole another story as well. And we sat in his studio in England or in London for a week, listening to the music, going over concepts, going over storytelling ideas. And at the end, we came up with this idea of it. It was actually Thaddeus. What if it all happened in one room? The whole thing, and we'll just use the projectors to change the space, which I found really, really appealing, because then it was more like the children's book, Where the Wild Things Are, where he goes on this big magical adventure, but it actually, in all actuality, it all happens in his own bedroom. So I love that idea from a storytelling perspective. And it was also very, well, hopefully it was more cost effective, because you're essentially only building one 3-dimensional set that you use for the entirety of the piece, which I thought was great. And really, by the end of the ballet, it makes us think, or Marie comes back on to the stage and she's wondering whether any of this really happened at all. which I really think helped tell that part of the story.
There's a lot of folks, on faculty at Indiana University that are very heavily involved in this, but certainly, bringing in people like Thaddeus Strasberger and they have just that kind of talent outside too. I think that's got to be a wonderful experience for the students, don't you think, Sarah? Just in terms of, it's not just a student experience. I mean, this is like a real troupe. I mean, this is like what they're going to be expected to be doing when they step out of here. And so it's that kind of tremendous professional experience that they're going to be getting. I mean, when I interviewed several of the students last year, that's the thing that they kept saying over and over and over again, and how fortunate they felt to be a part of this sort of bigger production. I mean, is that the kind of thing? I mean, and I know that's the kind of thing you set up when you try to do this at Jacobs School of Music, and certainly you guys are great at that, but you're focusing on the student experience and how you're preparing them for that next adventure.
Yeah, I thought start to finish this Nutcracker, from the creation of it and the building of it with a new set. I mean, I remember being a part in my professional career of Mikko Niisinen's new Nutcracker when it premiered at Boston Ballet. And the fine-tuning, the patience it takes to fine-tune the transitions. The first time a production goes on, you don't realize as an audience member, but just getting one set piece on stage and off stage in a specific amount of time, you're dealing with musicality and movement of a set piece. Essentially there's choreography of every part of the theater. That's a professional process that, even maintaining professionalism, staying warm during the tech rehearsal, ballerinas, dancers have to keep their bodies warm to stay really high functioning, but staying warm during a 3-hour tech where you're trying to hopefully get through the whole ballet, but you're not sure if all the pieces will roll off and on and come out and lights will change at exactly the right moment, even waiting through that process. I will say the Musical Arts Center, part of the laboratory space that is it's meant to provide this professional experience for the dancers. So, I mean, even the wonderful sets, this room that was built by the hands and laborers at the Musical Arts Center, our wonderful production crew, Steve Wilson designed it to fold like an accordion and roll and be stored permanently backstage at the Musical Arts Center, which for anyone who hasn't been backstage is insanely huge. It was tailored after the Metropolitan Opera House in New York City.
It's quite an experience.
It's incredible. You get to see it. Actually, that's the beauty of the way the film was crafted, is you get to see the whole backstage of the MAC if you tune in to our production of the Nutcracker through public broadcasting. So this opportunity to store the set and really be creative as the professional crew in how we prepare the stage each year that we bring it back was a part of that professional process. It was fun start to finish. And then I felt there was a whole nother element with the professionalism it takes to know that you're being filmed, know that your technique as a ballet dancer isn't captured in one moment, but it's going to be captured in perpetuity on this film. That's on a whole different level of representing yourself as an artist. So that was important too.
Well, it was such a treat for me backstage, and to be able to see a lot of that, because we spend a lot of time, we shoot a lot of footage backstage, and we've got drones flying overhead, and we've got big booming cameras from the balconies, and a lot of close-ups as well. So because we actually, we came back and you got all the kids dressed back up again, and we did lots of close-ups and that kind of thing too. But I realize I'm kind of putting myself in this, but I mean, how was that? You guys got to come in on some of the editing process and stuff. How did you feel that translated from the stage to the actual production that was going out for PBS? What was your impression as we were going through kind of some of the editing, some of the thoughts that, because you shared a lot of inside thoughts with me as we were going through the editing, and very, very, very thoughtful. What was that experience like for you from somebody who's not in the television world, but from the dance world, and you're looking at it from a different perspective than I am?
I think for me the most important thing was, no matter what tricky shots we did, or if we were close-up or if we were using drones, we had to keep telling the story. The narrative had to be strong. So as long as the narrative kept going in the way it was meant to go, and it was clear to the audience, then everything would be okay. Obviously, there were some technical things that Sarah and I, so if we saw a bad foot not pointed, or someone's falling off balance or falling out of a turn, we came to you and said, let's see if there's another version of this recording, and supplement it in and edit that in. And and make it as wonderful as possible. I think having the Steadicam and getting in close while pas de deux are going on and seeing that interaction between partners or pas de deux, I think that to me is really, that's beautiful, because sometimes you can miss that. And that's why people sometimes love to come to studio rehearsals and stuff, because it can feel more intimate and they can feel like they're more part of it. So I think those sorts of shots are really transcendent and really help tell the narrative very well.
There's lots of people out dancing all at once, and then you go and stick a bunch of television cameras in there. so I'm sure that had to be remarkably challenging as a choreographer. But I was so impressed, in watching you in rehearsals and then watching the actual stage production, and how well the students understand their positioning and understand each other, and the trust they have in one another, the athleticism that they have, and professionalism and joy. I mean, there's the sheer joy that's in their faces too. So I'm sure that, we see that on stage, obviously, but backstage, all those hours of work, all of that. I would imagine that's a challenge year in and year out as students come and go out of this university, to get the next group ramped up and ready to go again, and to do this yet again. Do you find that a challenge?
I don't think it is, actually. I think they come in with such a hunger and such an excitement. And you can see it when we have our first-year students watching the second-year students, or coming into the flowers rehearsal or snow rehearsal, whatever it may be, for the first time. And there's a great energy, and there's an energy about passing down the tradition of this ballet, or passing down the tradition of ballet in general. You can see the seniors and the juniors taking leading roles in the studio space and helping their counterparts or helping their colleagues, which is a really lovely thing to see. I mean, I think this is a sort of, career where you're always sort of giving back to the tradition. Mm-hmm. Like, for as long as you're in this career, it always feels like you've always got something to give back or to share. And I think they start that at a very young age. And it is remarkable. There's never any, from what I can see, sort of cattiness in the studio. That's always just a willingness to help out their colleagues, which is really refreshing and really lovely, particularly in this day and age.
This is such a wonderful ballet to even start with young children. I'm sure both of you probably got started as Nutcracker dancers, right? As you were probably fireflies or something, when you first started. How rewarding is it for you to, you think about yourself as a child growing up, and you were dancing and doing this, and then to be able then to probably play more in a lead role, and then, like as Sasha says, you're sort of handing that down, and now you're teaching generations of young students to continue to do this year after year. Yeah.
Yeah, I always say that this is our opportunity. The Nutcracker is our opportunity in ballet, because we are a part of, it's our only stronghold on American tradition, right? Mm-hmm. People go to see the Nutcracker year after year. And I really always felt that as a dancer, just the fact that you have this opportunity to see people you would never see at the show, every other show during the year, come and see the Nutcracker as a part of their family tradition. So I think the opportunity is actually teaching others to be compelling about our art form and pull people in with this story, and then keep them with your talent and how much passion you have and how much of an inspiration you can be on that stage. I think it really means a lot to me to give this story, this tradition, to a new generation every year, because it is a powerful tool. It's a powerful tool of our art form towards our own success and towards just informing the larger community of people in this country about what we are and what we can be on stage. It's also just really rewarding to see that tradition that Sasha mentioned earlier, the fact that seniors used to be dancing what the first years are dancing now, and to look at that growth. I mean, the Nutcracker ends up being this growth chart of success, and you get to see yourself progress through the ballet. And now that this is our third year of the Jane's Nutcracker, we're getting the opportunity to really see that, where we didn't get to see that in prior years because it was only 2 years in. Now we have dancers who've been doing this production for 3 years, and look at the growth that they've experienced.
It was such a treat for me, too, when we were shooting some of the rehearsals, and it was so fun. You had finished up sort of your main rehearsals, and then here come all the little guys, the little kids, right? And one little girl came up and she tugged my shirt and she says, "I'm a firefly." And she was so proud of it. And I said, "I am so proud of you. I am so excited for you." And she was just thrilled. She was so thrilled to be a part of it. So I see this door opening, for new generations. And I think, well, one day that's going to be Marie. That's going to be the Marie. And then maybe one day that'll be the Sarah Roth, right? I mean, that'll be the person who's directing her. That'll be the Sasha Janes who's creating the choreography for the new Nutcracker. You are doing a good job of sort of balancing sort of the rich traditions of it. I mean, you're keeping, that wonderful Tchaikovsky score, right? That carries all throughout, and the Jacobs Orchestra is beautiful with that. But then also blending that with your 21st century kind of sensibilities too. I mean, was that kind of the goal all along? Was like I want to kind of blend some of this stuff from the old with some of the new and make that more relevant for a 21st century audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's where Drosselmeyer came into it. And once you do that, it's interesting. It's like opening a Pandora's box. So I wanted to involve Drosselmeyer more by having her as a woman. And then it opened up the possibilities of having her in point shoes. And now she can lead the Snowflake. And now she has this, rather than just being a character role, it's now turned into this role that's sort of a virtuoso role where she's dancing throughout the whole program, which is really lovely, which creates more opportunity for the students. One of the mandates that Sarah gave me also was to try and get as many students in as possible. I mean, it wasn't a mandate, but it was like,
most of the things I say are mandates.
Yeah. One of the things Sarah ordered me to do was I think we had 65 students when we first started this project, and my goal was to get every student on stage every night as well as I could. So, we blew out some of the numbers too. So I think we have 20 snowflakes instead of 12 or 16 traditionally, and we have 16 flowers instead of 12, and that sort of thing. So we knew we had the space, right? We have this glorious stage, which Sarah talked about earlier. And we made the spaces, we maximized the space. So this production is, without getting too technical, but it's 53 feet wide and it goes back 40 feet. Well, traditionally, a lot of stages around the country for dance are about 44, 46, and they go 30 feet. So we have all this extra real estate, which poses a problem as well, because you've got to fill the space, otherwise it's going to look diminutive. But I think we did that. And I think also, there's maybe some quirks in the choreography which are mine, which I can't help because I don't know where they come from. They sort of manifest out of me, and you could talk to the students about certain port de bras, which is arm movements, which I have akin to sort of make overly complicated. But I think what's important about the production is we didn't dumb it down at all. Like technically, it's as difficult as any company around the country would be performing. We didn't feel like we had to, so that was really inspiring.
Sasha, what do you hope that the audiences take back from this?
We want to continue to grow the art form and grow the audience for the art form, and I think by creating something that's really a story and a fantasy, and maybe hopefully getting young audiences to really enjoy it, maybe we start creating that audience of the future. Anytime we step on stage, I always had a hard time justifying what I did for a living, because I thought, there's no way that this is relevant to society. What am I giving back? And I finally worked it out that if people can come to the ballet and just be removed from whatever problems or whatever things they're going through, and just have 2 hours in a theatre, a shared experience with other people that have a similar love for arts, and then go back and do whatever they do that's, saving the world or putting bodies back together or putting out fires, then I've done my job.
I agree 100%. I feel like if we can give people the opportunity to have just 2 hours of joy, and that ballet is the source of that joy. That's what's so exciting,
right?
Is they can look at the stage and say, I just had a really great time watching classical ballet.
we want them to sit for 2 hours and just put their phones away and just
In a communal experience.
Yeah,
and
enjoy.
I think that's the thing about live theatre, right?
Yeah.
Like we could, there was a concern about what will happen to live theatre after COVID, after the pandemic and everything. And I think what we've realised is we actually love coming together and being together to share that experience.
This is Nice Work. This is Nice Work. I'm Alex Chambers.
And I'm Kate Young.
So, Kate, you made me listen to this interview with Brian Eno recently. Thank you. It was good. It was worth it. And there was this moment that has stuck with me. Eno had been studying early 20th century painting in Russia, and there was just this explosion of innovation. And he realized that what allowed the people we think of as geniuses to get so good, it wasn't really just about their own individual talent. There was this whole infrastructure surrounding them, curators and collectors and critics. So Eno coined this word for what he thinks really creates the conditions for outstanding creativity. It's not about the individual, it's about the scene. What we need to cultivate isn't individual genius, but as he said, scenius. I feel like the term is a little corny, but the idea feels good, feels significant.
Yeah. And Bloomington is a small Midwestern city, and for our size, we have a lot of creativity, we have a lot going on. But the city wants to do better, so we have invited the two people at the City of Bloomington who are doing the most to make that happen, and we have invited you to talk to us.
Holly Warren is Assistant Director for the Arts, and Chaz Mottinger is the Special Projects Manager in the Department of Economic and Sustainable Development. Welcome, Holly and Chaz.
Thank you.
Hi,
nice to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
So
we're
glad to have
so
you.
excited.
So, Holly, we were talking the other day, and you said you've been thinking along similar lines about this idea of building a scene, or maybe even a bunch of overlapping scenes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I think so we were talking about this, and we were thinking more of just building a community of artists, and that is an artist of any genre. And we are just always thinking about how do we get the resources artists need to thrive here. And we feel when we give the artists here in Bloomington those resources that they need, they are organically creating a community and a scene. It's not our job to curate the scene. It is our job to say, we see you guys doing excellent work in the community. What do you need? How can we get it to you?
Can I add, a lot of the work we're doing too is people who don't know that the city exists and is a resource to them. So we really believe in that grassroots stuff. So also trying to find people who have never applied to a grant, who have never worked with the city, who don't even know. And a lot of those folks are doing DIY stuff, maybe punk stuff, maybe they're young emerging artists. So a lot of the work is getting out there, going to different events, different scenes that exist, and trying to not make everything so siloed, but to connect too.
So what are some of the ways that you're supporting artists? What are some of the resources?
We have 3 grant cycles every year. I think the one that I'm most proud of is the Artistic Advancement Grant Cycle. We started the first application cycle in 2021. We got 3 applicants. We awarded 1 grant. Wow. The next year, we got 96 applications.
Amazing.
And so once that started happening, we were like, we need more money. And the city's been really supportive in letting us grow our arts grant budget over the past 4 years. So we've continued this grant cycle, which closed a couple of months ago. We had 102 applicants, and I think we were able to award roughly 67 grants. And it's also just really interesting to see how that pool of artists evolves themselves every year. It's really cool. So we've got 3 grant cycles like that one every year. We also do professional development workshops, and Chaz has had a really great hand in just thinking about what kind of tools and experience and just coaching artists in our community should be experiencing from professionals to really level up. So we've done like grant writing workshops. We've done artist statement writing workshops. One of the main things we ask for in an artistic advancement grant application is your artist statement. Nobody likes to write them. They're a necessary evil. And you need them not just for our little applications, but for, national applications. So we did that. We did this awesome workshop with local artist Erin Toby, where she was just like, okay, painting folks, we know you can paint on a 2-foot by 2-foot canvas. What if you wanted to blow this up to doing a mural? And so that's really teaching folks we're not just like, this is how you get a grant. This is how you get your first public art commission. So we try to do that as well. We have our large-scale 1% for the Arts project. So that is a program that says for every city-funded capital project we undertake, 1% of that construction budget goes back to us for a large-scale public art project. That's great for artists who are really established in their processes. These are like $100,000, $100,000 commissions. You need to know how to work with a structural engineer, fabricators, blah, blah, blah. A lot of our earlier career artists in the community don't have that experience. So we also try to create more opportunities like painting on traffic boxes or painting murals for our earlier career artists. So we're also giving them opportunities. And again, just really thinking about how we can get that first public art thing on their CV so they're more viable as applicants to other programs. And then one thing we are piloting right now is an artist studio space. So we're about to welcome in a cohort of 8 artists into a 10,000 square foot space. All they had to pay for was insurance. They will have these spaces through the end of 2026. And again, this is just so they can make stuff, because what we see in these artistic advancement grant applications year after year is I need studio space that's affordable. Yeah, because there aren't that many studios now. The ones that there are here, they're not necessarily affordable. And so we just want to make sure folks have these resources so they can stay here and do their cool stuff. Because I think that's one reason why we lose so much talent in this community. Why stay here in Bloomington if you could go to Chicago and Cincinnati, pay the same amount of rent, and have so many more resources available to you as an artist? And so this is also kind of one of the main tenets of our department, Economic and Sustainable Development, is talent population retention in Bloomington.
And also what I'm going to say, with our opportunities and resources that we're offering to the community, it does change, and that's what I like about working with Holly. I do think we're a really good team because we are just looking at what does the community need. So that's going to also change our work. If we can get the arts incubator space that has studios and maybe eventually someday an all ages performance venue, that would be a dream. So if we can get things like that we know the community needs and get that stable and lasting, that's awesome. But then what else is after that? We need creatives and we need artists' voice to be heard for other things, not just art. Because I think artists are just so creative in everything, usually solution-based, very just, thoughtful, creative people. And so we need that mindset in a lot of different things, right? We need people of all kinds to help us figure out how to run the city and what the community needs.
Could you talk a little bit about public art and sort of how you think about that? Mm-hmm. And, you talked about the 1%
right
for the arts. I would just like to hear a little bit more
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
sure. So we're trying really hard to get the Bloomington Arts Commission's definition of public art into the world, just because I think there's been some confusion with past projects that were mislabeled public art when they were really just a sign that said Bloomington on them. But so we really see public art as any creative expression that is out in the world and publicly accessible. So again, this can take many different medium. It can be a piece of visual art. It can be a 2D mural. It can be a sculpture. It can be a festival. All that matters is that it is accessible to all. Basically, you should just be able to walk down the street and see the thing and have a creative experience of it, whether it is a moment of joy, surprise, excitement, or a moment of reflection, a moment of education. I think public art just has the power to do so many things in our community. And I think that's one reason why it's really valuable here in Bloomington. Oh, and the other thing I forgot is it involves many stakeholders.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say. It involves the public. So true community art and successful public art and true public art is all about, as Holly said, the sense of place, but it's also based on the community that lives there and the public that's there. You can't just be like, I have an idea for this space and put it there. It's all about engaging the residents, the businesses, whoever's in that spot, and talking with them, hearing their stories, getting the history, saying, what do you envision here? What do you think? What do you want it to represent? So it's all about asking the people that actually live there, that walk by it every day. It's not just, your ego saying, I want to create a sculpture here. It's like, okay, you want to do that, but it needs to connect with the community that's there. And that's what kind of makes it true public art, the accessibility and the listening and connection that comes with it.
Well, Chaz, Holly, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
I'm Kate Young.
And I'm Alex Chambers.
And this is Nice Work.
Constellation has 2 shows running this month. A Christmas Story, the musical, runs December 11th through January 4th at the Waldron Auditorium. Downstairs from the auditorium, though, in the Waldron Fire Bay, you can talk to God. Or actually, even better, God will talk to you, which, of course, is a lot less common. And that's what we'll be talking about today. It's An Act of God. It was written by David Javerbaum. He was a writer for The Daily Show, and he won 11 Emmys for that. An Act of God came out on Broadway in 2015, and now, at the end of 2025, Eric Shelley will be acting as God in Bloomington. He's here in the studio with me, along with the production's director, David Sheehan. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming in. So the person who originated the role was Jim Parsons on Broadway. I was doing a little background reading and watching about the show. David Javerbaum, the writer, so they chose Jim Parsons because he's inherently likable and inherently winning and funny, and God is none of those things. Working against type, Jim Parsons made God more sympathetic. And then Sean Hayes, most famously from Will and Grace, also played God in another production. And I saw some clips of that too, and he was much more campy in his approach, as you might expect with Sean Hayes. So I'm curious to hear how you are approaching God, Eric, the character.
What's your God like?
Oh, gee, fellas. I would say he's a bit erratic. He's deeply emotional. He's figuring stuff out in real time.
Okay.
And that's the journey that we go on with him.
Interesting.
There's some realizations that have been long in the making, and we're getting a front row seat of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's that discovery of questions in a way, for
like
God,
questions.
Well, God has all the answers, right?
Yeah.
And when you have all the answers, the idea of questions can sometimes be new and interesting. But all of a sudden, these questions come up, and God has to confront some of our, sort of liturgical inconsistencies and things like that, places that don't quite make sense. Noah's Ark is a great example of a moment where God has to provide some context to what actually happened. Of course, there are people in the world who would find that deeply offensive. And if your conversation about faith has already reached its conclusion, this might not be the piece for you. But if you are still actively in a conversation with yourself about what God is about and how that interacts with the scriptures, then all of those things are present in the piece and can inform that conversation without necessarily, and in a fun way, without necessarily trying to talk you out of anything.
I am curious. It was written in 2015 by a Daily Show writer. There were contemporary references then. Have those been updated? How are you dealing with that?
Yes, absolutely. There are a string of things that are either not appropriate to say anymore, that are maybe extra cringy, and with a new sort of post-2016. And so those are definitely some parts of the play that will need some special attention.
Yeah, I think the writer in one of the footnotes in the physical script says, I don't really care what you say here as long as it's funny. And so we're kind of keeping that, we're going to present the play as it's written for the most part, but there's a couple places where there are jokes that landed on Twitter in 2016 that don't feel like they'd land now. Unless you're Shakespeare, it's really hard to get that consistently right. The Daily Show's great, but it's not quite Shakespeare.
Constellations in Act of God runs December 18th through January 4th at the Waldron Fire Bay. David Sheehan, Eric Shelley, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you. God be with you.
And also with you. This is Nice Work, and I'm Alex Chambers. It's the second weekend of December. As I've mentioned, we are well into the holiday season. There's lots going on. We know about the Nutcracker. We know about Constellations: A Christmas Story, as well as An Act of God. Kate and Tyler, I sent you out to find the best holiday events beyond those, and you put your boots on and went crunching through the snow to find out. Tell me about your best finds.
Well, I can tell you about the Messiah Sing-Along that happens out at the St. Mark's United Methodist Church on Sunday, December 14th at 3 p.m.
If you're listening to this on the radio on Sunday, that's today in a couple hours.
Yeah, you better get to it.
Get to it.
You got a little more time at the Wiley House. They're doing a Garlands and Greenery tour and festivities. That's December 19th and 20th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Wiley House is beautiful. If you've never been, that's a great opportunity, I think.
Yeah. Holiday of Lights drive-through Christmas light display out at the Monroe County Fairgrounds.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's on Friday, December 19th at
this
6
Friday.
p.m. Yeah.
Great.
Check that out.
It's a Wonderful Life, a live stage production, is going on out at the historic Brown County Playhouse out in Nashville, and that's Friday, December 19th at 7:30.
Okay, same night as the lights. You're going to have to fit a lot in that night.
Yeah.
That's this Friday. Okay.
You might have to make some choices, yeah. And if you've got young kids that you need to entertain, Wonder Lab has plenty going on. You should check out their calendar. I got excited about Dive Deeper, where you get to learn all about their 300-gallon coral reef aquarium. Their staff will walk you through, all the details. That's Friday, December 26th.
Cool. That's a lot of sugar. It's very sweet. Do we have any palate cleansers? Maybe some things that are not holiday related.
Yeah, when you need a kind of a break from all the festivities.
Yeah.
I came up with a couple of those. The Comedy Attic has a couple of shows going on, and one of which is on the 31st, so very much like a New Year's Eve show. And the Back Door, as usual, has plenty of karaoke. They've got trivia nights and lots of line dancing.
At the Blockhouse, the IU Moving Image Archive presents You Probably Haven't Seen This Before, and I actually have seen this before when it showed at the Grunwald.
And that is put together by a friend of the show, Carmel Curtis.
Yes.
Who brings out various different films from the Moving Image Archive that are pretty unknown but fascinating.
Very cool.
I would imagine. I haven't actually seen it before.
Yeah, really well curated.
Awesome.
Definitely check that out. That is on December 18th.
Also, the Jacobs Harp Academy Winter Concert. It's just a bunch of young kids going to town on harps. It's wild.
What?
It's so much fun.
You've seen this before?
I've seen a version of it, yes.
Okay.
And it is... The harp is an amazing instrument, and getting to see like these young virtuosos play the harp, it's really, really, really impressive. But that's on the 14th, so, get on it.
Morgenstern Books has a lot going on all the time, it seems. I am particularly interested in the Weird Fiction Book Club. That caught my attention. That is on Sunday, December 28th at 7 p.m. And the read for December is A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan.
And that Weird Fiction Book Club is hosted by Harrison. He's a buddy of mine. I don't know him super well, but I think he's awesome. I think you should go check it out. Everyone would enjoy that. It might be time for me to show up.
Yeah, me too.
I've read that one. Yeah.
The Zine Club and Collage Collective. Those are 2 free art-making sessions, and they're going to join forces on December 18th at the Bloomington Fine Arts Supply on 4th and Rogers. That's from 5 to 7 p.m. on Thursday.
And that's pretty much everything that's happening in our listening area, isn't it?
From my end, no, there's nothing else. Kate, you got anything?
Yeah, there's plenty more happening, and you can find out about it on the WFIU community calendar. Did you guys even know we had a community calendar on our website?
I absolutely knew that.
I knew all about it. I'm on it every day, Kate.
Okay, good. Well, you can find that at ipm.org/community-calendar.
And our news department put together a list of holiday events happening in December. A number of those have passed at this point, but you should still check it out. You can find that on ipm.org.
Oh, guys, there's one last thing.
What's that?
December 18th, 8 p.m., we're going to be on TV.
What?
Yeah, I don't know if you'd heard about this.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
We all shot a little thing with the local band Busman's Holiday, and we put on like a classic 70s style variety show. And we'll air some of it here as a nice work episode. It'll be a TV broadcast the 18th. And if you ever wanted to see us, you can check it out. And if you don't.
You can listen to it as a podcast if you don't want to see us.
If you don't, yes. I thought it was a lot of fun, so I hope people enjoy it.
You've been listening to Nice Work, a production of WFIU, WTIU, and Indiana Public Media. Find us at ipm.org.
This episode was produced and edited by Alex Chambers. We get production help from Danny William, Holly Wilkerson, Carl Templeton, Eddie Stewart, Leo Pies, Jillian Blackburn, and Jonah Ballard.
Our theme music was composed and performed by Alan Davis. Additional music from Universal Production Music. The executive producer is Eric Bolstridge.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Nice work, Alex.
Nice work, you guys.